Okay, let's dive right into this. We're going to peel back centuries of stereotypes about paganism. So forget all the Hollywood cliches for a minute, and let's actually explore it as a really sophisticated and ancient worldview, almost like a practical technology for interacting with reality itself.
To get started, I want you to really just sit with this question. What if the sacred wasn't some far-off, abstract idea, but something you could actually touch? Something present in every rock, every river, and every tree all around you. Because this one single shift in perspective, it's the key that unlocks everything else we're about to talk about.
And that question leads us perfectly into our first section. See, at its very core, the difference between the pagan way of thinking and the dominant modern worldview really comes down to two totally different ways of seeing the world. So this slide gets right to the heart of it: immanence versus transcendence. The Abrahamic view is largely transcendent, right? God is outside of and above creation. But in the pagan view, divinity is immanent. It lives within the world. This means the earth isn't just some temporary testing ground. It is the sacred reality. And believe me, that's not just a small theological detail. It changes absolutely everything about how you relate to your environment.
This also completely flips the script on how you see time. So instead of a linear arrow shot from a single moment of creation towards some final judgment, the pagan view sees time as a wheel. Birth, growth, death, and then rebirth. It's a cycle, constantly turning. Now, this isn't just poetry. It means that things like decay and death, they aren't failures. They're actually a necessary part of the whole process, kind of like how you need compost to get new growth. There's no big anxiety about a final end, just the constant, beautiful turning of the wheel.
So what happens when a worldview where divinity is local and time is a cycle meets a system that's built on central control on linear progress? Well, that's where things get interesting. And it leads us right to our second section: why this worldview became a direct threat to power. And this table just lays out the conflict perfectly. In the monotheistic empire model, you've got one god up in heaven, which conveniently validates one king down on earth. Authority is top-down, and you need the official channels, the priests, the bishops, to get access to the divine. But in the pagan model, it's completely different. Authority is decentralized. It comes from the land itself, from your ancestors, from your own direct experience. Nature isn't just a resource to be stripped for an empire's ships and gold. It's a living, breathing being that you actually have to negotiate with. And this right here, this is the crucial point. This quote from our source material just says it all. If your spiritual connection is direct and unmediated, the entire pyramid scheme of a centralized church or state kind of becomes pointless, doesn't it? You don't need their permission. You don't need their interpretation. And that makes you much, much harder to control.
So, how did people actually maintain that direct connection? Well, this brings us to the practices themselves, which the source describes not as just beliefs, but as practical, unseen technologies for engaging with the world.
Let's start with the big one: magic. And nope, forget the sparks flying from fingertips in the movies. In this context, magic is a technology. Think of it as applied psychology. It's about using focused will and ritual, what the source calls psychodrama, to basically jolt your subconscious mind into a new state. This makes you way more likely to see and seize opportunities that line up with your goal. It's about shifting probability, not breaking the laws of physics.
Okay, so let's look at another one of these technologies: divination. Like throwing runes or drawing tarot cards. The point isn't really to see some fixed, unchangeable future. The real point is to bypass your own logical brain, which, let's be honest, gets stuck in the same anxious loops over and over. By throwing a random element into the mix, you force your subconscious mind to create a story, to make a connection it wouldn't have made otherwise. It's a tool for unlocking what you already know, deep down, but just can't get to consciously.
And you see this practical focus everywhere in the core practices. First, it's all about orthopraxy, right action, over orthodoxy, which is right belief. Basically, what you do matters a whole lot more than what you say you believe. Second, ancestors aren't just a dusty memory. They are a living, breathing part of your identity and your support system. And finally, your word, the oaths you make, they aren't just talk. They are the actual currency you use to build personal power and shape your reality.
Okay, so these are ancient ideas. We get it. But the source argues they're also incredibly powerful technologies for today. So, why does any of this matter now? How can we use this philosophy to maybe re-enchant our own modern world?
Well, let's start right where you are, in your own home. In this worldview, your house isn't just a box you live in. It's a living organism.
That vibe you feel? That's a real thing you cultivate. And suddenly, cleaning isn't just a chore, it's an act of banishing stagnant energy. Fixing a leaky faucet is like healing its body. You stop being just an occupant, and you become a steward, a partner with the spirit of your place.
And that feeling extends outward, beyond your four walls. You don't need to worship a god from some distant desert. If you live in, say, Colorado, you can connect with the Rocky Mountains. The real gods, the powerful, raw forces that shape your life, are the weather patterns, the local ecosystem, the very ground you walk on. This kind of practice grounds you in physical reality, and it pulls you out of that weird, disembodied space we all live in on the internet.
And this might be the most powerful piece of it all. This worldview completely reframes personal struggle. A crisis, a burnout, a total breakdown. These aren't seen as failures you need to hide or suppress. They're seen as an initiation. The normal you has to be shattered so that a new, stronger one can emerge from the pieces. The crisis isn't the end of the story. It's a shamanic invitation to go down into the dark and discover what's trying to be born from the ashes.
So it all comes back to this. By locating authority in the land, in your ancestors, and in yourself, this worldview provides what the Source calls a technology of sovereignty. It's a toolkit for building real personal power and resilience, which leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In a world that is constantly trying to centralize control and influence, what could you actually build with a technology like that?